even know what's aligned for my life.
Right. The biggest challenge is to get out of the mental, with their hamster in the wheel.
Yes.
The mental rumination around these things and get into our bodies and figure out where we're actually feeling some of these things.
If you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what are the best 3 pieces of advice you would give her?
Drink way more water than you do anything else.
Hey, Sarah, it's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
I mean, girl, I couldn't even hold back. As soon as I saw your face pop on here, I was like, girl, there's nothing more than fires me up than meeting other bad-ass women who have been through the shit and now they're on top and they're here to spread their wisdom and their stories and their experience just in service of others. And that lights me the hell up. So welcome to the show. I'm so pumped to talk to you today.
Well, thank you, Amber. I'm equally pumped and very excited to get to know you a little bit today, too.
Yes. Well, you've got such an incredible story, and I love it, and I can't wait for you. I know we're going to weave parts of it all throughout this interview today, but I always love to just kick it off with some rapid-fire quick questions to get the audience warmed up a little bit. So what's one habit that's changed your life?
Exercise and being disciplined and consistent with it every single day, whether I want to do it or not. Making it really hard. Because I have found that when I do that workout, when it's hard, when I do hard things, then I can do the hard things that are later going to show up in my day.
Yes. Hell yes. And I love that when you said even when you don't want to, right? Because to me, like those are the days that matter, right? I always talk about like leaning into your future self, not like what your self wants in the moment. Like what does your future self want? And then rely on her. So I love that. Yes, girl. Who inspires you the most in your life?
This is hard. I have a lot of people that inspire me, but I'm going to pick my 19-year-old son.
Oh, I love that.
I adopted him when he was 13 days old. And we discovered when he was 6 weeks old that he had sickle cell disease. And 5 years ago, we discovered he had kidney disease and his kidneys are failing. He's got ADHD and 5 or 6 learning challenges, flat feet, osteoporosis, all kinds of things. And pardon me. Sorry.
My editors will get this. Don't worry. I'm recovering from the same thing. It's like this cough that will not go away. I've had it for like 2 weeks. So
I grabbed a quick snack before because I haven't eaten anything yet today. So I know that's what that. Anyway, and he's got all these challenges. And today, and not today, but this year, he started his freshman year of college. He's crushing it. And he's learning how to take care of himself. And he's doing the stuff he needs to do. And he just inspires me. He's one of the most resilient human beings I've ever known. And things phase him, but nothing stops him. And I often think, when something's hard, I think, well, you know what? He's doing it today. So can I. And that, he's my person right now. He's my inspiration right now.
I love that. But and I hope you see this and know this. He's a beautiful reflection of you. Right? Like kids, they learn what they see, right? They learn what they see.
Well, he has a lot of love that surrounds him. And I know that's a big piece of what enables and allows him to be who he is. But like innately, I just think there's just a fire in him that he has not allowed to be extinguished despite all the challenges.
And I want to go back to that a little bit. I want to ask this last question, then we're going to circle back to that because I do want to talk about resilience in children, especially after divorce. And so I want to dive into that for a second. But before we circle back to that, how do you practice gratitude?
So I used to have a gratitude journal, and I thought that was the way to do it. And I would just write down some things I was grateful for. It got a little redundant, and it started to be things like the roof over my head and the heat that I turned on and the coffee in the machine, and I started to push myself a little harder. And right now what I do is I feel the things I'm grateful for. I try to identify them, but then I also try to feel them. Where do they live in my body? Where do those feelings of gratitude, where are they embodied in this physical self of mine? I feel like it's just reinforcing it more for me, makes it more real, makes it come alive in a different way.
Yeah. God, I'm a huge believer in that too. I mean, that really just relying on how I want to feel throughout the day and understanding like when I do have gratitude or when I am wanting to call in either more joy, more connection, or more happiness, like really understanding how that feels in my body. That is when you can get out of your head and into your body. That is such a game changer, I think, in just the way you show up in life.
Yep.
So I love that.
Yep.
Okay, so because you started to, you mentioned resilience with your son, and I know that you've been divorced. Now, was your son a part of the family? The faith did you adopt? I think he was the one you adopted, right? You said that was while you were married, so he did go through divorce with divorced parents.
Well, actually, Amber, I'm divorced twice.
Okay.
So,
Let's talk about it.
So yeah. But my son, who I referenced, was adopted by my ex-wife and I, my first marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were together 18 years and adopted 3 children. And he was, how old would he have been? He was about 8 or 9 years old when we divorced.
And, one of the questions I work with divorced women, it's been an evolution of my business. I feel like I'm finally home and really in my dharma and my purpose of what I am meant to do. But one of the things that I hear from women quite often, and I can identify with this of just going through divorce, is just one of the biggest source of anxiety and fear is worrying about if the kids are okay and worrying about the emotional health and stability of the kids. And so I get asked a lot, by women who are going through divorce, like, how did you handle telling the kids? And would you have done anything differently in looking back?
In terms of how we told them?
Maybe how you told them or maybe how you handled just kind of like the initial separation. I know there's so many women listening to this show right now that are in the middle of it. And it is such a huge source of anxiety and fear and worry. And so that's a question I get asked a lot. So you've lived it and I love that one of your favorite qualities about your son is how resilient he is. So obviously he's been through some stuff too. So I'm just curious that process of maybe telling the kids that you were separating or just going through that separation, anything that you would have done different or any insights or advice you want to give women listening to who are going through it?
Well, I think that my experience with my 4 kids is my kids have always taken their cues from me.
Yeah.
So if they sense that I'm okay, they often feel okay. Yeah. And when I'm all worked up, anxious, irritated, like I'm boiling over, that's the energy they're going to take on. And the process of divorce, I think, is no different. So, I mean, my ex-wife and I think did a really, really good job of separating and divorcing. I think we did the best that we could, and I think our best was quite good. I believe everyone, really tries to do their best. Sometimes our best falls short, though.
Yeah.
I think our best was quite good. And, we told the kids together. It was extremely hard. We kept it age appropriate for where they were.
Sure.
We did our very best to not argue in front of the children, disparage one another.
Yes.
Pit them against each other and us. We have maintained a very unified front. So if the rule is you can't play Xbox after 8:00 at one house, it's you can't play Xbox after 8:00 at the other house too. And that's just an example.
Sure.
We are very consistent. Our communication with each other is very strong. And we never asked the kids to pass messages back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. We never asked them to lug big bags of things to school and put it somewhere so that we didn't have to interact with each other.
Yes.
We did the handoff. We tried very much to put their needs and their age appropriate level of understanding things at the forefront of everything we did. We actually wrote pardon me. We actually wrote a vision statement for how we wanted to co-parent. And I mean, those were really, really intentional things. Yeah. And I mean, our kids struggled. Yeah. I mean, divorce is hard. And no matter how good you are at it, it's a hard thing. It's a hard reality. But they did really well, and they're doing really well. Yeah. And so, I mean, I've said this in my podcast. I'll say it again. I think that to, as long as I live, one of the things I probably will be most proud of in terms of what I've done in my life, the way that she and I divorced and co-parented.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, a lot of the things that you mentioned, having the unified front, not, working really hard to have clear communication with your ex, these are the things that my ex-husband and I do in our co-parenting situation, and it matters. It makes a difference. I think that, but I want to just add though, it's not always easy.
Correct.
How many times have you had to bite your tongue just to keep the peace? Or, I know for me, there's lots of times where literally I want to drive over there and punch him in the face. And, but then I have to stop and I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, this is not going to be well for anybody.
Yeah.
This is going to make the situation worse. And ultimately, my kids, I care more about my kids doing well in the situation. And sometimes you just suck it up and you do whatever you got to do to do those things that you mentioned. I think that that's a really healthy list. I know some of them, depending on your situation, not everybody has an amicable relationship or a relationship with their ex where they can communicate. But I think trying to implement some of those things, I think the biggest one, honestly, is not disparaging your ex and to your kids. No matter what your situation is, and that's hard. That's really hard. But I just think that that's so important to not do if you can, right?
It's really difficult because, even post separation, all the things that triggered you in your spouse when you were married and living in the same home, they still exist.
Yes.
And I think the myth is that we think that when we no longer live with them, that we won't be triggered anymore.
Absolutely
no, it's not true. We're going to be triggered for the rest of our lives by that person.
100%.
And it's what you do with those things.
100%.
That's not their problem. It's yours.
Yes, that is so true.
And I think to just be honest with yourself, like, you are triggered. You are the problem in that statement, not the other person.
Yeah.
You are allowing their behavior to impact you in such a way that you are acting in a way that, you don't want to act. That is your problem, and you got to own it. You got to make a choice. You got to take responsibility for what's going on in you. Own it, figure it out, and grow up. This is hard stuff, And just because you got divorced, it doesn't mean you don't have to do that work. You still have to do the work.
Right. Yeah, because I love what you said. It's like, like it or not, especially if you've had kids with this person, like, look, you are, especially if you have a kid, like, you are stuck with this person.
You're in it.
So you might as
You're
well.
in it. So
you're in
it. One of the things that I did was being really intentional about what did I want to learn during the process of separating and divorcing. What are the things I wanted to work on? So I started to make notes around all those triggering events and what I was seeing in myself. And I started literally deciding I was going to tackle them one at a time, using the experience to absolutely maximize how I could shift, change, become more of the person that I wanted to be for my kids, for me and for my kids.
Yes. And for your next relationship too, right? Good God, tell you if you don't.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Right? Like, I had to learn that real quick. Like, if you don't address this stuff head on, like, guess what? Your baggage just follows you.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, there you are.
100%. Yeah.
So, I think that's, And, I am a big fan of Peter Crone. I don't know if you follow Peter and his mindset coaching, but he'll say, life is going to present you with the opportunities and the people that are going to teach you things you need to learn.
Yes.
And it's going to keep presenting you with those things, people and opportunities to learn the things you need to learn. So, just accepting that I have some things I need to learn here.
Yeah.
Is a healthy place to start. And I think it's a great way to model for your kids who also have lots of things they need to learn, right?
Yes.
So it's like, mom's learning too.
Yes.
Mom's working on this too. Mom has big feelings that she's learning how to be with.
Yeah.
While she's trying to help you be with your big feelings.
Yeah.
We can use this as a way to connect with our children too in very vulnerable ways. Like, just be human with them, right?
Yes. I mean,
Mom made a mistake,
yes. I talk about this all the time. I think that sometimes we have this misconception as moms that we just have to be, especially if we're going through something traumatic and we're trying to be strong for our kids and whatever that looks like. But I think sometimes it can actually cause kind of the reverse effect that we really want, which is like, I think that meaning like if we, by us creating that space to be vulnerable with our kids, I think that we allow them to see that it's okay to be vulnerable back with us.
Yeah.
And they're not walking around with all this anxiety. And, they, like you said in the beginning, like they take cues from us, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think that it's okay sometimes to say, Mom's having a hard day. Like today was really freaking hard for me. And just being able to like talk about that, I just think it opens up the door for them to be able to share with us what's going on in their little minds.
Well, even like Mom made a mistake. Gosh, I wish I hadn't done that. I am really sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to work really hard to make sure I don't do that again.
Yeah.
Because inevitably we're going to do things because we're human that we regret.
Yes.
And we use it as a moment to teach our kids that that's inevitable too. I mean, I think that acceptance of our just humanity is so important. We tried so hard to deny all of it. I don't have feelings. I'm thick-skinned. Nothing can get to me. I'm perfect. I mean, we put forth so much energy into that space, but just accepting our humanity and meeting other people with it. I mean, that's the gift we offer our kids. That's a gift we offer our friends,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this show is all about helping women to get unstuck. And, we know in midlife, good God, there's lots of things that can get us stuck, divorce being one of them. But, I talk about what I like to call midlife interruptions, right? Yeah. And I would love for you to share a little bit about how you found your purpose at 52, right?
Yeah.
And how it's never too late to find your damn purpose. There's so many women listening to this show who are starting over. Maybe they're empty nesters, or they are going through divorce, or maybe a career change, or they're just looking at their life and being like, there's got to be more for me, or I feel like there's more for me out there. So talk us through what did that look like for you?
Well, I'm a manifesting generator. So if human design is something that you're kind of into, Amber. Okay.
I'm like, so am I. Yes. Okay.
Okay. So I encourage people to kind of understand that it's been so helpful for me to learn what that means. What is a manifesting generator? What is a projector? But I've been reinventing myself my whole life. So I think accepting that, I get to make choices. Right? And I can choose when something doesn't align anymore, and I can let things go. I can hope for new. I can turn the page. These are things that I think sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to even think about, right? Yeah. Let alone put into action, But I got remarried. I got divorced, and then I got remarried, and we decided we would try to have a baby. I had not had a biological child. I had adopted 3. And at 44, I was so blessed to have a biological child, my son, who's now 8. And right around the time he was about to be born, I was feeling really like the work I was doing was just getting super old. I had been doing it for a while. There wasn't a lot of novelty left in it. It was one of these things where I put all the systems and the structures in place and I set everybody up for success. But the maintenance of these things was just not my jam. And so I was feeling ready to step back. It was perfect timing because I wanted to be more present at home. So I stepped back from some of that work. I didn't stop entirely because that's just not who I am, But then the pandemic hit, right? And all bets were off and everything shifted and changed. And I had some other issues that we had to really focus with the health of my son and the impact the pandemic had on that and all kinds of things. My little guy went to kindergarten, and it's kind of a moment where I think a lot of moms can maybe come up for air if they're so lucky to have a full day kindergarten.
Sure. Right. Yes. Yes.
Because let's be real, if it's a half day kindergarten, you can't get shit done. You can't get shit done.
You're not getting shit done. Let's just go there. Yeah.
So he was in full day kindergarten. Praise the Lord, right? And I decided I wanted to start thinking about what am I going to do next? I was so fortunate even to have that chance, right? Yeah. To take the break and then to think about what is it I might want to do.
Yeah.
I kind of did what I normally do. I reached out for some support and I hired a coach. And And I thought what I was going to do was plan my next career move. I'm trained as a psychologist. I worked as a consultant in a lot of different for-profit, non-for-profit contexts, did development. I did some political work. I had a really cool, vast kind of resume of experiences that could have, led into lots of different avenues. And she said to me, yeah, I think that this would be a really great project. I'd love to help you. I think I can help you. But first, I think we need to go inside. And I thought, fuck. I don't want to go there.
Yeah, right.
But something about that was very intriguing. And because she put it out there, and because now I knew that I needed to go inside,
Sure.
I could not go there. I'm so sorry about this.
No, you're good.
Because I'm the kind of person that when you kind of place something in front of me, honest feedback, right? I am going to take it to heart and I'm going to work on it,
Yes, because you're a doer.
Am I just the doer, the Midwesterner, the Catholic, the German? I mean, I got it all stacked up,
Love it.
The oldest, whatever.
Yeah.
So she took me on a journey. And I did a lot of internal work. I did some internal family systems work where I really, really started to explore. And I put my hand here because I got out of my head and I went into my body and I started to really explore these parts of myself that I had really not spent a lot of time getting to know. And in the process of that, which took, it still continues to this day. I'm still doing parts work. I'm still doing a lot of work on my own. I discovered some passions that I knew were in there, but I found a different way of allowing myself to explore them. I found my voice. And I found a lot of courage. I think, and part of the moving into what was new was letting go of things that didn't align anymore as well. I talk to a lot of women now, and I'm starting to do coaching again. I was coaching and then I wasn't, and now I'm starting to do coaching, but in a different way. And it's very hard to think about what's next if we're not willing to let go of what isn't. And for me, I had to really, and it took a long time, because some of the things I needed to let go of were very, very difficult to let go of. I mean, I filed for divorce a second time. Because those things that were not aligned were holding me back in big ways from being able to do and be the person I knew I wanted to be.
How does somebody, though, like listening to this and they're like, okay, like, yeah, Sarah, that sounds beautiful, but sounds awesome. But like, okay, how do I even, how do I even know what's aligned for my life? And and I know this is like such a huge question, but I just think that sometimes, especially when you've done a lot of work and when we talk about it, sometimes if people who have really not dove into that, it can kind of go right over people's heads because people are like, dude, that sounds awesome, but I don't even know, like, is there a book I can read for that? Like, is there is there medicine? Is there a pill I can take? But like what is some practical advice, I think, for somebody who maybe has that feeling in their soul? I mean, I know that feeling of like, God, I'm meant for more, but I just don't, I feel stuck, or I just don't know what that looks like. What is your advice for somebody to how to start to do that work or what to do?
I mean, I've been in that place where I'm ruminating on this isn't right. I know that there's something else out there for me, but I don't know what it is. And, I think the biggest challenge is to get out of the mental, with their hamster in the wheel.
Yes.
The mental rumination around these things and get into our bodies and figure out where we're actually feeling some of these things. I think what keeps us from being able to often move forward with that sense of purpose is being really disembodied, right? And what do I mean by that? Being disconnected from our feelings. And, for me, I knew I was smart. I knew I could think about hard things. I loved a mental challenge, but I wasn't connected to my feelings. And it is really from a place of embodiment, connection to our whole selves, that those purpose questions are answered. So what do I think is the place to start? I mean, can you sit with your feelings?
God, 1000%.
You
I
know,
think
are
we,
you?
yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I
No.
think that we
Yeah,
over,
go.
like, I think that we can like over complicate it, but I know, and I didn't even know that this is what I was doing when I was going through my
Yeah.
divorce and my whole life starting over 5 years ago and just trying to find the purpose in the pain. And where I started was just being quiet with my damn
Yeah. Being
feelings.
quiet with my damn feelings.
That's
Yes.
it.
Are you
Yes.
willing? I mean, so much of that, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do is, we're on the treadmill.
Yes.
Are you
And
willing to step off the treadmill, say no to something so that you can create some quiet for yourself to be with you? And,
yeah.
and that means letting go of a lot of the distractions, whether we're scrolling, watching, eating, drinking, whatever, smoking,
Yes.
whatever it is, right?
Yes.
All the things we do to distract ourselves from the things that we don't want to feel.
Yes.
Are we willing to let those things go and just sit with our feelings? I mean, I spent 3 friggin' decades avoiding my feelings and running on the treadmill of, if I just do this, if I just do that,
Yes.
if I just try this, if I just acquire this, if I just make this move, if I just become this person, then I will feel fulfilled. And literally, the day that I sat down and finally let myself feel my big feelings, I was so blown away by the fact that they didn't kill me. Because I thought they were going to kill me. I was running away from them like they were a grizzly bear,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat with the bear, and it turns out the bear didn't kill me.
Yes. And I think too, like, I think what's so powerful about learning to sit with your feelings without the distraction is I think that you really do start to like even uncover like what's really going on there, right? So like a lot of times you can walk around with like so much anger or, I know for me, I was pissed off as hell when I was going through divorce. And when I really started like sitting with that and really just getting curious with my feelings. And it's as simple as
Yeah.
just asking the question like, hey girl, like how you feeling today?
Yeah.
Like what's going on? Well, and this is like the dialogue I'd have with myself. Well, I'm fucking
Mhm.
pissed today. I'm angry. I'm
Mhm.
pissed off. He's such a son of a bitch. And
Yeah.
da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like, okay, all right. Like, and like almost like you're having
Yeah.
just a conversation with somebody, like a friend. Okay, well, what, like,
Yeah.
tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, yeah.
Or where? Tell me where you feel that.
Where are you feeling that?
Because I think
Yes.
that's the piece is like, where do you feel that anger? Where is it in your body? Because as soon as you take it to that physical place, and for me, I feel everything in my stomach. Oh God, I
Yeah.
feel it in my gut. My
Yeah.
gut's like, it's always my barometer. It always
Yeah.
has been. But as soon as you go to the where, it quiets the mind and it allows you to sink into it. Because what's often behind anger?
Sure. Fear
Fear and
and
sadness, right?
sadness. Yeah.
And it allows you to sink into the realness of it, right?
Yes.
And as soon
Yes.
as we learn that these things are okay to be with, and we give them a place, we let them be a part of us, it releases something powerful. The grip, right? It
Yes.
releases the grip. Because all those feelings and all those parts want is just to be heard,
Yes.
to be seen,
Yeah.
to have a place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, talking about, purpose, and kind of finding your purpose,
Mhm.
midlife and what that looks like. One of the things that I hear a lot from women too, who are going through, especially when it comes to divorce, is, or even empty nesters who have kids that go off to college. It's like, God, I've spent my entire life being a mom or even a mom and a
Yeah.
partner. And
Yeah.
I don't even know, like you wake up one morning. I know I watched this happen with my mom. She had 7 kids. She woke up one day when she in her 50s and she's like, I don't even know. I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know what
Yeah.
lights me up. I don't even know my passions or my purpose. And what can somebody do, when that happens, when they realize like, oh shit, I have lost myself, right? What can somebody do when that happens? And then also I want to talk about like, how do we avoid that from happening
Mm.
again?
I don't know. I wish there was a really easy, like, nice little soundbite, Amber, on this one.
Right.
This is really, really hard. I mean, what I want to speak to is the need for compassion.
Mm.
You know, um, So you wake up one day or 1 week or 1 month and you feel like you've lost yourself. Well, start with compassion.
Oh, I love that.
Okay. So can we have some compassion for the human who made those choices, did the best they could, right? With the resources they had and what the knowledge they had, the ancestral baggage they were carrying, all the
Yes.
things, right? And
Yes.
can we just give her some compassion? Can we have some grace?
Mhm.
Can we give her a little grace for
Yeah.
being the best she could with what she knew?
Yeah.
It's so hard. I mean, as women, as humans, we're so good at forgiving others. Oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm fine. It's all good. But can we do that for ourselves?
Yes. Yes. We're so
Right?
damn hard on ourselves.
Yeah, we're so hard on ourselves. We expect so much. The expectation of perfection, right?
Yeah.
As soon as we, bring some compassion to that scenario, can you just feel like how, I mean, even when I said the word, my body kind of relaxes, my shoulders, kind of loosen up a little bit. And I've created a little space
Mhm.
because I don't have to be so hard on her anymore. I don't have to be so driven.
Yeah.
And there might be just a little bit of an opening, a softening for something new to show up, to come in.
I love that. I love starting with compassion. I think that oftentimes we just skip over that. We wake up one day, like, when we're, and we realize that maybe we've lost our way or we don't recognize
Yeah.
ourselves, and then it's immediate though. Like, we can go into like beating ourselves up. Like, how did I get to this place? And da 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 da. And then I want to
Yeah.
go into like hyper overdrive. And then, yeah. So I just love with just starting the advice to just give yourself a little bit of grace and
Yeah.
compassion.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's important to look at how did I end up here? That is
Sure.
important. But we don't have to beat ourselves up over the choices that we made. We just have to be responsible for them, Like, yeah, you made those choices and now you got to live with them, right? But we don't have to keep berating ourselves about them,
Yep.
because it was
Yeah.
just a choice,
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you're going to make a million of them today.
Yes. Yeah. So when you were starting over essentially
Mhm.
at 52, deciding like,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm going to reinvent myself.
Mhm.
How did you have any fear of failure? I know a lot of women who are
Yeah.
starting over, especially in midlife, have a lot of fear of
Yeah.
failure, and it is what keeps them from, it is what keeps them in the comfort zone, right? From just
Right.
staying complacent, right? From
Yep.
not betting on themselves, from not, taking that chance. So, did
Mhm.
you have any fears of failure? And
Mhm.
if you did, um, how did you overcome that, or how did you deal with that, or
Yeah.
what advice do you have to somebody who's struggling with that fear of failure?
Well, it was really my 50th birthday that began this whole process. I mean, those
Mm,
big decade birthdays can be
yes.
big. They are huge for me for other reasons that maybe we'll have time to chat about. But, I was turning 50 and I just was looking around and thinking, I can't keep doing this the way I'm doing it. Right. I was terrified of failure. I mean, I had failed majorly many times before. Like,
Yeah.
my first divorce was a failure, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I was giving up on a career that, I invested a lot of time and money. I mean, to be trained as a psychologist is no easy thing, right? And I gave it
Right.
up, right? And I was going to do something completely different and gave it up, right? Little do I know that all that I learned and all my training, it's so important for what I'm doing
Yes.
today. But, at the time,
Yeah.
I mean, fear fear is a very, 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 like primitive, common human experience. Well, most of us walk around the world terribly afraid all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
Um, I how did I get through it? Well, I think I wanted something more than I was afraid of failure. I got to that
Mm,
point. There was a tipping point
yes.
where the fear of failure was not as powerful as the fear of not doing,
I felt, yeah, I mean, I say
right?
this all the time, like even like little things, like, when I started my business and I didn't want to get on social media because I was so afraid of putting myself out there. How I overcame it was my
Yeah.
desire and my drive to succeed
Yeah.
was bigger than my fear of
Totally.
failing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I got to that point. But did I stay in that stuck place of being afraid and not wanting to put myself out there
Mhm.
and things like
Yeah.
that for a little while? Yeah, until eventually I got sick of my own bullshit and decided,
Yeah.
okay, well, listen, put your big girl pants on because if you're
Yeah.
going to
Right.
do this, like
Yeah.
you got to do this.
And I actually kind of reframe failure because, for me, the things I've learned, the most powerful lessons I've learned in life have come from making big mistakes and failing, right? I mean,
Yes.
the more successful you want to be, the more you got to be willing to fail. But what was very fearful, what was very scary for me was being vulnerable. And so what I had to just realize is that on any given day, I usually feel about 45% vulnerable and 55% hopeful in almost any given situation. And I'm going to just take that vulnerability or the fear, give it whatever word you want, with me, because that 55% of me wants something. And I'm going to drag the other 45 along. I'm not going to let that 45% stop me.
Yeah.
Because that 55 is bigger. And and I think being able to make small shifts, like let's just say making a cold call or reaching out to a friend and just admitting that you want to do something different, or taking the step to put a resume together or revise your LinkedIn profile, or maybe, redo your website, all these little incremental steps. Every time you do a little thing like that, you're bringing your fear with you, and you're giving it less power.
Yeah.
Right? It's never going to go away.
Right.
It doesn't go away, but you recognize that it doesn't have to stop you.
Yes.
Right? Like I say this to my kids all the time. I've got a kid who has had a hard time with school after COVID. Okay. She's not alone. Anxiety is high and among adolescents. And so this is a few years ago, she couldn't go to school, couldn't go back, too afraid, too scared, too anxious. And I would say, you know what? I hear you. This is very scary. And today we are going to take your anxiety to school with you. We're going to take it with you. It's going to sit right next to you. It's going to be there with you all day. It's going to be okay too, because it can go to school too. We don't have to wait till you're not anxious to be able to go to school.
Right.
If you are going to wait until you're no longer fearful to do something that you really want, you will never do it. And so all we got to do is open that door just a little crack. So it's like, what's one tiny little thing you can do to show yourself that you can move forward toward this goal? Because the more you flex that muscle, the more things you're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe it's just cracking open the computer and logging in.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like going to a coffee shop with the intent to work, and maybe you just read.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you literally have to kind of like, if you need to, you take it in little tiny steps. If you can find someone who can be kind of an accountability partner, buddy for you, right? Even better, because now you got somebody who might be able to say, hey, you said you were going to do this week. Did it work out?
Right.
Because I said I was going to do this and it didn't work out.
Yes.
But next week, let's try to, there's lots of ways to be creative with this, but you've got to decide that you want to be.
Yeah. I love just kind of the visual of bringing the anxiety or bringing the fear with. Like, I think it's okay. My pencil's stuck in my hair right now.
I love it.
I think it's okay. I love the idea of just being able to first recognize that you are having those feelings, have the compassion, like we say, and then just telling yourself, okay, you know what? Guess what? We're going to bring this with us today. Like, I'm here, I'm doing it, and we're just going to bring it with us. And I love that little mini mantra. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
it works for lots of things. I mean, you want to go to the gym. Well, and you don't feel like you're gym ready. Well, you got to bring that fear with you. You're never going to get fit if you don't start,
That's right.
Like this works in all places of our lives. I think, I think there's been, we've been duped, right? To think that there's a perfect moment, perfect time for everything. And social media hasn't helped us at all, because all we see is like the finished product.
Yeah.
Right. We don't see the hard work. We don't see the blood, the sweat, the tears, all those things, right? All of those people that we're admiring, there was a day that they had to literally force themselves to take that step.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, your journey through cancer and everything that you've been through, particularly with cancer, is very inspiring to all women. And I would love for you just to share what helped you to find resilience in life's hardest moments, like going through cancer.
I grew up in a family that was very much like that kind of quintessential Midwestern, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality. Just work hard and, things will happen for you. You just, your effort matters, I knew very much that like I had a purpose in the world. It was to work, right? To contribute, right?
Sure.
To make the world a better place. And it was drilled into me. I mean, drilled hard into me. And as much as I wish sometimes that those things hadn't been a part of me, because they had some negative consequences too. I mean, I have the pressure I have and continue sometimes to put on myself
Same.
to achieve
Same.
it can be.
It's soul sucking at times. Let's just,
I feel like,
yes.
it's like having
100%. Yeah.
a choke collar around your neck, right?
Yes. Yes.
But when it came to cancer, I didn't think I had a choice. So it wasn't like, should I choose to fight or not? Should I choose resilience or not? I did what I knew how to do. And that was put my head down and get better. And I'm kind of grateful for some of those lessons, because in that particular moment, it really served me, because I just kept trying. And it took me a really long time to find some balance in that. But in the moment of like actually having to fight the disease, it was kind of useful. Like I couldn't give up, because that was never an option. I never saw anybody give up in my life. No one gave up.
Right.
Everyone kept trying.
Yeah.
So I was going to keep trying. What I had to do was learn how to try differently. Right? Because what I didn't know how to do was really how to take care of myself, my physical self in particular. And I had to learn that. And that took me a really, really, really long time. I think there's no good time to have cancer. Okay,
Sure.
let's just put that out there.
Let's get that out there. Sure.
But I was 20, and having it in your 20s, I think is particularly challenging, because that's like that decade when you're supposed to figure out like, who are you? Where are you going to live? What are you going to do? Who are you going to be with? Right? All these things. I thought I was going to die. And so that whole process was very derailed for me. And I also developed this deep distrust and dislike for my body. It failed me. And it was miserably flawed post-cancer. I had 13 inches of scars all over my body. I was literally burned from radiation. All this tight neck muscle stuff you see, that's radiation. That's the impact of radiation. People always say I have a great neck. And I'm like, yeah, 7 weeks of radiation. It did a great job. It tightened everything up, It's painful, actually.
Yeah.
I had some heart issues as a result of radiation, all kinds of things. Okay. It took me almost 3 decades to really make peace with my physical self. And part of my rediscovering my purpose, here's big, newsflash, was making peace with my physical body. It was, it was as if there was a metal plate here in my neck separating my head from my body. I was all about the intellectual challenge, and I despised this physical self and the way I talked about it, treated it. If I could have, I would have probably cut my head off and walked around with it on a pole, because it fucked everything up.
Yeah.
Right. And it took me almost 3 decades to figure out a new relationship. And it's pretty cool, because I actually, a lot of the joy I feel today is just feeling so connected to myself.
Yeah.
And feeling so good in my physical skin.
Yes.
But God, it was not easy. And I recognize it's not easy for most of us. Forget about cancer.
Sure.
The world makes it very hard for women to develop a very positive collegial relationship with our physical selves.
Yes.
Yes. From a very early age, we're taught to be so critical, right? View ourselves with such contempt and critique.
Absolutely. It's the one huge relationship in my life that I've had to work very hard to overcome and to repair. Just the being bulimic in my 20s and always being so obsessed with the way that I look. And I know a lot of women too are kind of entering into this phase right now in midlife where they hate their bodies because they feel like their bodies have been hijacked.
Yeah.
And hormones are fucking them up. Kids fucked them up. It's like, and that's tough. And you're right. When we are like, there's just, social media and diet culture and all the things. It's a whole other podcast for a whole other day. But I mean, you're right. It does not teach us to have, a good relationship with our bodies. It teaches us that our bodies are not good enough. And
Right.
it's tough. Yeah.
And they should be an object of critique.
Right.
Which I think is like that where young girls are just taught to look at themselves from a distance.
Yeah.
How do you look?
Yes.
Yeah. And so to sort of re-enter yourself,
yeah,
is really hard if you've been disconnected like that for decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, resilience is that little window that never closed entirely. That said, there's got to be more. That little voice. I mean, I could get a little emotional talking about it, but a couple weeks ago, I was having just a great day. God, I was having a great day. And I felt like I had a moment where I thought, I think this might have been what I felt like when I was 2. I reconnected with this sense of wonder and joy and curiosity and boldness, right? Courage that a 2-year-old has. I mean, God, they'll walk off a cliff,
Yes.
thinking they can fly. I mean, I think I found her. I think I found her in me. And for a few hours, it was the most just incredible experience.
I love that. I love that so much.
But I think our job is, when we have that desire, it's to figure out where the crack is. Where's the light still coming in? Sometimes it's through our children, through a close relationship, through a dear friend. Maybe it's a book that we're inspired by. Maybe it's a podcast we can listen to. It's a song that just energizes us in a different way. Maybe it's a yoga class, or it's a walk. Anything that can just identify where's the light still coming in and how can we just let it in a little more.
Yeah, I love that. Well, as we kind of wrap up here today, I feel like I could talk to you for hours about so many things. We didn't even get to half the questions I wanted to ask you. Okay, let's put that out there. But I always love asking this question because I think about this too for me. But if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what are the best 3 pieces of advice you would give her?
I did a bunch of social media clips about this a couple weeks ago, and
did?
they were really funny. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. What would you tell her? What would you tell her? 3.
So, I would tell her, I would say surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not other people.
I love that.
Yeah. How can we step out of that comparison culture?
Yes.
It's so devastating. Drink way more water than you do anything else.
Yes, girl. I would tell my younger self, girl, drink less, okay? Put it down.
I was actually I never drank a lot of alcohol, but I don't drink any, and I don't drink any now, but
I don't either. But
I actually find that sometimes a glass of water just really helps things. I mean, really, just get a glass of get a glass of water. It can help just kind of center you. And maybe what's the third thing? Maybe don't take yourself so seriously. Just go fail as often as you can. Fail as much as possible.
Yeah. I love that. Yes, absolutely. Don't take yourself so seriously. And I think that, what I have really learned, and I think I've really had to own this and I'm sure you can appreciate this as being an entrepreneur and all of that, what we see on social media with people, as we know, is the highlight reels, right? But if you ever listen to any CEO or anybody who's really made it to that elevated level, that kind of that next, level, they all say, they're being honest, they all say the same thing is you're just seeing you're seeing my success, but what you're not seeing is the thousands of failures and the thousands of fails that I had to go to get here. And I think, especially talking to, my entrepreneurs out there, I mean, I think that's been so huge. Every time I have, quote, failed, well, first of all, I have to work really hard about letting, having a reframe on that and letting that word go in my vocabulary, because really it's not a failure. It's just a chance to learn what to do differently next time. And I think in my business, if you, and as an entrepreneur, if you get stuck in that like failure cycle, that's how you get that's really how, you'll end up quitting. You'll end up throwing in the towel, right? But it's
Yeah.
like every time I have had a launch that quote failed or didn't go as well, or if I did this and it flopped or whatever, if I stay stuck in those feelings of, feeling sad and upset and sorry for myself and all the things, I'm missing the lesson. I'm like missing what I can learn from that in order to be able to, to pivot. And so I've really had to learn to operate like a CEO and like take the emotion out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like take the emotion out of it and just look at everything, try to look at things a little bit. And that's hard, but I'm just saying, try to look at things a little bit through from curiosity, a standpoint, as opposed to just getting so stuck in it.
Well, we get swept away with our emotions so often, and we get so caught up in them, forgetting that they're just feelings.
Yes, they're not truth all the time. Half the time, most of the time, they're not truth.
It's really your perspective of them and your relationship to them that is the biggest opportunity, right? And just let them be, and then everything else can kind of fall into place, and we can make decisions in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Amber.
I love just your words of wisdom. And I know the listeners are going to walk away. I know I personally did, with just so many nuggets, things to remember. So I know you said that you're starting to do some coaching again. I freaking love that. Where can the listeners find you? I know you have a podcast, Holy Schmidt. I love that. Where can they find you and get more of you?
So, we did. We launched a podcast in April. It's called Holy Schmidt. It's WHOLEYSCHMIDT. It's on the mic cap.
Yeah.
And we also, you can find me on my website, holyschmidt.com. You can watch the podcast on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. What we're really trying to do is make it really okay and safe for people to just be who they are, have their experiences, right? Let's just be real with all of them. Let's take the stigma out of it. Let's form a community around how human we are and how connected we can be in that experience.
I love that. Well, thank you for just sharing your light and your experience.
Thank you, Amber.
With all of us. I so appreciate you.
You're putting really good stuff into the world.
Oh, thank you.
So it's a real honor to be here today with you. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Thanks, Sarah.